Welcome to Game of Roses. Today we have a very special guest, a very special interview with us today. Is Brandon Baker the champion of the Circle Season 6? Thank you for being here with us today, Brandon.
Yes, thank you. I don't introduce like that everywhere I go, honestly.
Okay.
Like,
You are though. I mean, you're a champion of one of the biggest reality competition shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is a big feather in the cap, but
You
also
got
the
the
way you
NRU
played that season.
jacket.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Those are coveted. I would love to get one of those. How do I get one?
I right. I mean, honestly, like I didn't even know I was gonna get one. That was so random and out of the blue. They were just like, "Hey, by the way, we're doing this now." So I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
Nice.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. The Netflix reality universe, as they're calling it, the NRU, is really, in my opinion, it's kind of the biggest and best version of a network stepping up and bringing all of its reality stars under one umbrella, throwing a bunch of different events where you're all invited, having multiple shows that kind of take people from different shows and put them all together. Are you uh are you aware of that? Or are you happy to be a part of that? Do you see it differently from how other networks do their reality stars?
No, I'm definitely excited about it. I think it's a really huge opportunity for Netflix.
I
I
agree.
think as long as they do it the way they were talking about it, I think it'll be amazing. For me, it's like I think it kind of feels like we're pushing towards so many dating shows,
Hmm.
and we're kind of losing shows like The Circle and things like that because I just it, the promotion isn't there for The Circle anymore, as you've probably noticed.
Sure.
So I'm just like, if this Netflix reality universe thing is going to work, then we got to start doing shows that aren't based on hooking up with hot people.
I agree. I agree. And I noticed that for the current season of season 7, there wasn't really a rollout happening. There wasn't a lot of like buzz about the season coming. It just was like, oh, it's here.
Yeah. I have a hunch that this is going to be unfortunately the last season. I just have a guttural like
Really?
feeling. Yeah.
Don't say that. I applied to
I
be on
know.
the show. I want to go in.
I know. I don't want it to be because obviously I was such a fan of the show before going on. So I would love to see it grow and become even more. I've got this feeling Netflix is kind of done with it.
Really? That's fascinating. I don't know. I feel like if they are making more seasons, they ain't done with it. Like if they were done, there wouldn't have been a season 7. I, I
That's
can
true.
I can only imagine it's relatively cheap to produce. They put all you guys up in that what is it, like a hotel, an apartment building in
Yeah.
Atlanta,
It's an apartment building. Yeah.
and they don't pay you, right? Unless you win or get voted as the fan favorite.
Yeah, you get like a stipend like you would like going on any reality show, but
Mhm.
it's not like a paycheck. You're not getting like
Yeah.
any good money from it. I mean money's money, but you're not getting like a
Yeah,
paycheck
it's like a
from
couple $100 a day. That's what I'm saying. It's
yes,
super
yeah,
cheap to produce. There's no
yeah.
locations. That alone makes me think they will keep making the show until doomsday.
Well, so I thought the same thing, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember they always filmed two seasons together. So
Oh,
seven was filmed right after we were filmed.
okay.
So that's kind of why I was like, they got renewed for two seasons, which were 6 and 7. So I
Mhm.
don't know. I, I just have a feeling, and it
All right.
sucks, but yeah.
Are you watching season 7 right now?
Oh, absolutely. I'm
We'll get
such a
into
fan of the show, so.
Yeah.
I love that. We'll get into I have some questions because I'm like a Circle super fan. Chad knows this.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to watch every single episode. And so I have some questions about, season 7 and what you're thinking of the cast and such. We'll get into all that later.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
Before we get into it, I want to start out by asking you just some kind of general questions. This is what I like to ask these questions of anybody who's been in a big reality game. What
Yeah.
shows, like what TV did you watch growing up? Was it primarily reality show? or was it like all kinds of stuff? What were some of your favorites?
Oh my God. Yeah, I was so into reality TV. I watched The Real World.
Hell yes.
I'm a fan of Big Brother.
Hmm.
I watched the show Next on
Yes,
MTV.
Yeah.
classic, classic nostalgia MTV reality. Love it.
Yes, I was actually on MTV's Made.
What?
Yeah, so I was on Made when I was
Holy
18
shit.
years old. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And what, when you say real world, what seasons were you watching?
Oh my God. I was watching, I want to say like seasons like 4 and on.
Okay.
I can't really recall too much because it feels like it's been forever. But
Hmm.
I actually auditioned to be on The Real World, and I almost got on. The
Oh
only
my
reason
God.
I didn't was because I was a virgin.
Oh, and they didn't want that? That seems
No,
perfect.
well, because they start to ask the question like, um, would you hook up on camera and stuff
Mhm.
like that? And I was like, well, I'm not
Mm.
gonna try to, but if it happens,
Wow.
This
That's
is where your hatred for dating reality TV began in a
probably.
botched real world audition where you refused to make out on camera.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
my origin story.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't want to date myself here. I don't want to tell you my age. I'm 64.
Uh-uh.
No, I'm not. I'm
Lie.
48. I'm
Yeah.
48. I just wanted to hear you say you look good for your age. I'm 48 years old.
Well,
And
you
so
do, but
thank you. Um, I remember watching the first season of Real World that came out in 93 when I was whatever I would have been like a sophomore in high school. And it was revolutionary. You knew in that first season you were watching something that was going to change the way all television was made, at least in America, forever. And just left like such an indelible mark. And then watching, as the kind of second wave reality all came out in the early 2000s with Survivor, Big Brother, Amazing Race, Bachelor, all that
yeah.
shit, you were just like, it's happening. And now we're in this era, which we call third wave on this show with like traders and everything else. Um, so when did you know that you wanted to be on reality TV? Was it Real World when you were sending in your audition tape, which I also did, by the way?
Yes.
Everyone did.
I right. I feel like everyone tried.
Yeah, for sure.
I always was like a natural born entertainer. It was just something I always enjoyed doing.
Hmm.
And I remember the only auditions that really came to our area were reality shows. So
Hmm.
I just decided, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to use this avenue because it's available.
Right.
I didn't have enough money to like travel for auditions and stuff like that, like nothing. So I definitely that's how I kind of fell into the reality TV thing. I had watched it all before, like I loved watching it and was just like, well, this would be fun. I'm entertaining. I could go on there. I could stand up for myself.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I was like, oh God, the real world, that's going to be epic because I can go in, I get to meet people, I might get a little crazy. Like, let's do this. The
Might lose my
excitement.
virginity. Who knows?
Right. The audition process I actually remember was so harsh because they put us at a round table of like 15 people and they were basically like, this is your opportunity to impress us.
Mm.
And I remember specifically, it's one of my favorite. We were sitting there and this girl would not shut up. She just kept going and going. And I was like, hey, 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 stop. Can you shut the F up for a second and give the rest of us a chance to speak? Thank you. And then, like, right away, the guy handed me the card and was like, you're on to the next round. I was like, boom.
Reality TV techniques. Just curse
Yeah.
someone out in the audition. You'll be fine.
It's
Amen.
super interesting that type of casting. Big Brother has like live auditions sometimes. You can go out to a mall or whatever, and they do a similar kind of thing where they'll have multiple people sit in a little circle and just be like, just talk to each other. And they'll watch who's the person that's going to pop off, who's the person that's going to like make somebody mad or
Oh
whatever. And
yeah.
that person invariably goes through. But if you look at like Bachelor, they don't do that at all. It's exactly the opposite. They keep everybody sequestered in the casting process. So they don't even see each other or know who the people are until they show up and
Oh
cameras start
God.
rolling. Um, no, that's interesting though. So are you what reality shows are you watching now other than Circle, other than Big Brother?
Love the Traitors.
Yes.
Obsessed with it. I am obviously the Circle. I just started Love is Blind. I've
Ooh.
never been a watcher of it, so
Yeah.
yes, come for me.
The
I know.
UK or the USA season? UK or
U-
USA?
USA,
Yeah.
USA. I met Jeremy Lutinsky. I know,
Mhm.
very controversial. But I met him and we were chatting, and then I was like, I gotta see what's going on. So
Did he give you any tea? Any Love is Blind tea?
not really. He just kind of explained the scenario in which he found himself. So I learned about that, which I think was great. And I think it's hard once you've done reality TV because you know there's more to every story.
Yep.
So I was just kind of like listening, and I was like, I can see kind of what happened here. Not
Mhm.
saying I agree, just saying I get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of all reality TV, obviously, is you're only seeing a fraction of what actually happens, and
Yes.
producers can manipulate that to make it look like however they want. Frankenbite audio to make people say things they never said. In Bachelor, there's notoriously producers would do things like they'd bring in one player, sit her down on a couch, having a conversation with a producer on that couch. Then they bring in another player later to sit where the producer's sitting, have a conversation with another producer, and then they cut those two players together to look like they're talking to each other. Stuff like that, like just making things up out of nothing. In the Circle, though, that's harder to do because you're never together. It's only you in your room talking to the screen in hashtags, basically. But did you
Yeah.
ever see anything during your season where you were like, oh, they did that person dirty in the edit, or they made something look like it happened that never did?
No, I'm gonna be completely honest. I
Wow.
think that's something I like about the circle was that even watching it before, I kind of had assumptions like maybe they're piecing things together. But after watching our season, I'm kind of like, they don't touch too much. They take away things
Yeah, of
because
course.
otherwise it would drag out. But they don't really, I don't think they do a lot of rearranging because everything is pretty accurate for my season. Like if you said it, it was shown.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think obviously there's a story they have to tell.
Mhm.
So there's always going to be a villain. There's always going to be a hero. Like there's always going to be those things. But I think it's pretty accurate to what you
Yeah.
said.
You're saying that, that there's not a lot of that manipulation, but I
Hmm.
heard that there was a conversation that was not shown between you and QT during like the super secret influencer moment before the
Yeah.
actual final ratings. What was that conversation? Because it was just kind of shocking that, everyone was like, QT is obviously going to be in the top, Kyle's going to be in the top, Miles is going to be in the
Hmm.
top. And then here comes Olivia, making a
Yeah.
break in. What was kind of tell me a little bit about that conversation? How'd you get there strategically?
So what happened was it had come up. We knew there was going to be a super secret influencer or whatever. And then I just remember being like, I haven't talked to QT in a while. She hasn't reached out to me. I haven't reached out to her. I feel like we really need to do this because I'm not 100% convinced she's on my side. And then we were having a conversation, and I just remember being like, okay, I've got to convince her somehow that I've still got her, and then someone else might not still have her back. So I remember in the conversation, I was just like, girl, I brought you into this circle. You know, I've been there for you. Like, I introduced you to Lauren. I introduced you to Kathy. I just went all out saying like all these things, just basically like, girl, why would you not choose me? Because
Right.
obviously I'm gonna fight for you. And, if you don't, there's a chance you could go home because look how good you've done.
Right.
Yeah.
So I convinced her to rate me higher than Miles.
Oh, wow.
And that's why everyone got so mad at her
Yeah.
because they were just like, well, why wouldn't you rate Miles high? He was going to protect you. But I kind of got her to distrust a little bit.
Break
But
her
she
alliance
quickly,
at the final stretch. You broke the
Yeah.
strongest alliance of the game. That's quite a feat.
yeah, I think she quickly realized, oh, snap, I screwed up. But because we've talked about it, her and and she was like, yeah, the moment I did it, she was like, I knew
Mm.
I had screwed up. And um, yeah, obviously the fans were pissed at her, but they didn't show the conversation, so she had no way to defend herself.
No, exactly. And that's what they do this in Bachelor and all shows all the time. That is like a classic villain edit where you leave out
Mhm.
the context of why somebody did something that is going to appear to the fan base to be bad or villainous. If there's no
Yeah,
context, all you see them doing is the bad thing. And so they gave her that villain edit. That's crazy. Wow.
I think that's
right.
so
And
crazy because the original villain, I was thinking that it was Jordan. He came in guns blazing, ready
Yeah.
to be the villain. And then at the last second, it was all like hate towards QT for her decision, which is really
yeah, I I felt terrible that it happened. And also it's so funny because I'm very happy with my edit, obviously. I can't complain. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, it painted me in a really good light. And I was like, yes, yes. But there are things like that conversation I wish they would have showed because it's just there's more to me than just the cutesy nicey
Mm.
person. Like I have edge, and I think it would have been good to show that I have edge instead of just being like, because it didn't show my strategy much, and it made it
Yeah.
look like I was just floating. But I had so many conversations where I was constantly changing people's minds. I
Mm.
mean, why do you think Lauren flip flops so much?
great.
Oh no.
That's
Poor
crazy.
Lauren. That was all because of you. Um, so you went into this game as a catfish. I'm curious, how much did the producers have to do with that decision? Did you go when you were in the final phases of casting, were they asking you, do you want to be a catfish? If so, what is that identity? Were they kind of pushing it or were they not a part of it at all?
No, when I went into auditioning, I actually started like I went in wanting to be a catfish.
Mhm.
The only thing that we went back and forth on was who was I going to catfish as?
Yeah.
They gave me some suggestions, like they gave me pictures and profiles of people and were like, what do you think of this person? What do you think of this person? And I was like, no, they're great. I think they're awesome, but they look like models. And I was like, I can't even fake being a model. I'm not going there. And then Claudia came up
Right.
and
And
I
then
was
you
like,
pick a beautiful girl like Claudia.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what are you talking about here?
I just felt like she looked not as threatening
Okay.
as like some of the profiles I was receiving. I was just like, this girl is gorgeous, but it's a threat. Like I think other
Right.
girls would look at her and be like, she's a threat.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I had to get someone I felt looked more innocent,
Mhm.
Right.
and Claudia fit the bill.
Were any of your other friends like kind of pissed that you didn't choose them? They're like, why didn't you use me as the catfish?
um, no, not really. Honestly, no, not really. I wish someone would have been like, "Why didn't you choose me?" And I was like, "Because you would have said no."
Yeah. Because you don't look like a model and you look threatening. You're the
Yeah,
double whammy. Two strikes, you're out. Uh,
let me just destroy someone's complete like life.
yeah, might as well. You're a champion. What does it matter?
Okay.
Right, right.
I want to ask you real quick about you mentioned traders up top. Would you go on that show?
Oh God, yeah, I'd love to go on the traders.
And would you want
I
to be a
think,
trader?
yeah, I would want to be a trader 1000%. Um,
Ooh,
I
okay.
just think it's so much more fun to play the game as like something different. So
Hmm.
obviously I wanted to play a catfish because it's a challenge. it's more exciting. You have to work harder.
Sure.
And so for traders, I think as a trader, you've got to put the work in. And I was like, this would be
Interesting.
so amazing.
Well, I'll tell you this. I have done, I do like coaching to put people into The Bachelor and build strategies for them to win that game. And I'm starting to do it for traders as well. And what I have found mathematically is that it's way harder to play a faithful than it is a trader because a faithful has to do multiple layered lies, whereas the traders have to
Mhm.
really just do one. I'm not a trader.
Yeah.
That's it. But a faithful has to, first of all, identify who the traders are, then lie to not only the traders in a way that makes the traders think, I don't know that you're a trader. They also have to potentially lie to some of the faithful to say, like, I don't know who the traders are, or I even think this person's not a trader, to throw them off the scent. And you have to still maintain that you're a faithful. It's just the complications of
Going on.
being like a late game faithful are way harder to get through than traders. And mathematically speaking, traders are going to win that game most of the time.
Yeah, because there's less of them. It's yeah.
Yeah.
I I think for me, it's just I don't know. I think everyone would expect me to be a trader
Hmm.
because of the just like the innocent like look I
Yeah,
bring. I think
Mhm.
people would expect me to be a trader and
totally.
therefore would also kind of be like, no, there's no way. I think they would
Right.
question where I am the whole time. And I think that's perfect
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
they're
That's
never gonna
strategy right there.
yeah, they're not gonna take a shot because they're like, I don't really know, but I nah.
Yeah.
So
Definitely see you going in as a faithful and then getting recruited later in the season.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
the
that would be
ah
like the perfect.
yes, that's the best position to be in. You
Yeah.
know, we've talked a lot about on this show about one of the game mechanics in traders that I think needs to change is how they select the traders in the beginning is literally the casting people, the producers just have meetings with them all. And I guess
Mhm.
Alan Cumming is to some degree involved in this as well. And they're just like, that person should be a trader because they want to be, or they might make good TV or whatever. But
mm,
I think they have to randomize it. I think the selection
mm,
of the initial traders has to just be randomized so that that initial kind of like in your case, coming into this game, having won a similar game by lying about your identity, I think
Right.
immediately we would have people suspicious of you. But if it's randomized, then like that suspicion is gone. And I think it
right.
it levels the playing field a little bit. But I don't know. We'll see what they do in future seasons.
Yeah, and well, and it's more exciting if it's randomized because then when you are picked to be a trader, you're kind of like, oh shit, like I had no time to prepare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I want to see somebody who's like bad at trading. So far, all the traders have been pretty good. They've made some
Yeah.
missteps,
Eh.
but nobody like collapses under the pressure of it immediately. They
Like there
all
were
last
some
through.
really good traders, but there were also just like, were they good traders or were they just bad faithfuls? Because that's what
Yeah.
Oh
especially
God.
USA season 1, bad faithfuls. Because the traders that season, I mean, my personal opinion, were not that great. It was just bad faithfuls.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know
Yes.
about
I
that.
mean, what was the girl, the black girl with the long braids or hair? I forget her name, but worst trader. And she lasted the entire game. She ended up winning. And I'm
Wait,
just
you talking about
watching it.
Suri?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
She
did
was
not think she was
fantastic,
good.
in my
No,
opinion. She dominated that
no.
game from the beginning to the end. And
I-
then in the end, she got them to vote out the other trader who was in the finals. Like,
You're
what a
proving my
risky,
point.
crazy move.
You're proving
I
my point. Bad faithfuls. It was just
I,
horrible. It was
I
her. It was
guess.
her face. It was. I'm really in tune to like face expressions, body language.
yeah.
She was frowning a lot. She always looked upset or like concerned about something. She would have been my first choice.
Tell
I
that to
agree.
her
I would have
$100,000.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I would have taken her out early. I watching season one, I said the same thing. I was like, I don't know how they don't know it's her because she always looked either extremely pissed off or overly like confused by what's happening.
Yeah.
And
Girl,
people
no one is that
knowing
confused.
no, and people knowing what other show she's from, and they knew she was from Survivor.
Yeah.
Girl's gonna hide it a little better than that. She's
Come
not
on.
gonna be confused. She's been on reality TV. I think it was you spotted it in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like,
What did you
Sri,
think?
I'm sorry, you're amazing. I would have sent your ass home.
Well, I mean, she was my player of that whole season. I gave her my MVP almost every game. What did you think
Yeah.
of Phaedra Parks in season 2? as a trader.
I love Phaedra.
Me too.
Honestly, traitor, faithful, I wouldn't have cared. I just wanted to see her
Yeah.
mouth off constantly.
My favorite thing that she did every time they came to breakfast the next day after she had just annihilated somebody, they'd walk in and be like, "Oh, well, Joey's gone," or whoever, and she'd be like, "Well, that's crazy. Can you pass the eggs?" She was always eating something the next morning at breakfast to try and like hide and eat. Let's just change the subject very quickly. Oh, those waffles look good. She was great.
I'm obsessed with her.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. We'd love to see you on the Traders, especially because they're so successful right now. They just won a crap ton of Emmys, and
Right?
now Cummings is the best Emmy host, and he just ousted RuPaul, who was the 8-year running champ for that. So
yeah,
freaking amazing.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, that show's so well done. Who would you want to see in an all-star season of The Circle?
Oh God, that's not fair because I'm biased.
That's why we're asking the question. As a champion of the game.
Right. Obviously,
Okay.
you would be in there. We got to have some heavy hitters in there too.
I was gonna say I'm gonna be in. Let's come on.
Absolutely.
Me, I want to see QT come back. I would obviously, if it were me, I would want Cassie there. I think I would also I want Chris Sapphire back.
Love Chris.
I agree. I would want, oh my God. Jaleesa has to come back.
Yes, iconic. What if her and her husband came back and played together as a catfish?
Right? I think that would be epic. Who else? Oh my gosh.
Joey Sasso, perhaps?
I think Joey could, well, yeah. I feel like if they did an all-star season, they're gonna have to have like pretty much all the winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the winners.
And then close winners.
Right. Second and third place. Have you followed Joey Sasso's career much on the other reality shows and stuff that he's done post Circle?
Not a ton. I know the shows, like I've seen previews of shows he's been on.
Yeah.
And I know he just released a movie.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he did on Amazon Prime.
A movie that he, like a scripted movie where he's acting?
He's acting, and I believe he either directed or produced it. Yeah.
I'm gonna need to see that immediately.
Yeah, so that's good.
What?
And then
oh my God.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to do something. I can't tell you what it is, but I'll be seeing Mr. Joey soon.
Nice.
Okay. Interesting. Can you tell us if this is a reality thing or another scripted Joey Sasso movie?
It's technically reality. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So you're going in that direction. You want to be a reality star.
I want to do scripted, but it's one of those things where it's like I gotta find the right opportunity. I live in Ohio. It's a little bit harder in Ohio. As I say that, I know there's people from Ohio who have become actors and stuff like that. But I just haven't got into that direction yet. I'm doing some things right now to kind of hopefully lead me there. But until then, I would love to do reality. Even if I became an actor and was like acting professionally, I would still do reality because it's fun.
Totally. I agree. And I think too, I mean, just from kind of like how we view reality TV, I think the talent of being a reality star, in my opinion, is far more difficult and impressive than just being an actor. Good actors like a Daniel Day-Lewis or something, that's another level. But like walking this weird line of how much of myself is really in this character, in this situation, and how much is kind of a put on or an exaggeration of some component of my actual personality. That is like why I love watching reality TV, because the people who can do that the best, who can come in like a little bit themselves and a little bit like this weird super version of themselves, those are the best reality stars, in my opinion. And it's like just such a difficult thing to do well.
Well, and you have to be willing to really put yourself out there. I think those are the reality stars I also like bond with the most, are ones who I'm like, okay, you're human. I want to see you mess up and I want to see you feel bad about it. Like anyone can screw up and be like, no, biatch, like I'm not taking that back. Like I said what I said. anyone can say shit like that. It takes a real
Sure.
person to stop and be like, okay, well, I was wrong. I'm giving it to you, but if you stay on me, I'm gonna give you more shit. But I take it. I messed up. So
Mhm.
I think I don't know. That's real to me. That's reality. Um, I think when it's all show and it's all on 10, on 10, on 10, I'm like, you're not being real. You're being a complete character. Like you
Yeah.
look at the big reality star like Johnny Bananas,
Hmm.
right? Johnny Bananas, prime example. That man can go from 0 to 1,000 in a
Real
snap of
quick.
a finger. But also, he's human, and when he messes up, he's like, "Listen, dude, like I messed up." So
Totally. And he's played in some interesting games as well. Like anybody who comes from that MTV CBS family that has like Real World and Challenge and stuff in it, where
yeah,
you are taking, Real World primarily is like a docu series. They've put these people in this situation, they're following them around, doing whatever. But then the challenge is like now you have to play hardcore competitive athletic games against each other where people are getting like stitches and bloody lips and shit. And he can do both of those things. And I
yes,
think that's like a very weird, rare talent that really kind of
yeah,
only comes out of that. And you see it too on Big Brother, I guess.
oh
Survivor a
yeah.
little bit, but Survivor's more game than anything.
I Yeah, if I went on any of those shows, it would just be for comedic relief because I would just get my ass kicked constantly.
No, but like not in Big Brother because they have games on that show that aren't necessarily like you don't have to be a bodybuilder or like an ex-pro
True,
football player. There's a lot of those games are psychological or mental or memory or whatever.
Yeah.
true. Big Brother would be a blast. Yeah.
Do you think that that would actually help people when as they're coming into the circle? Because there was a player from Big Brother, Brett, who came onto the circle.
Mm.
There's also other players like Chloe, who's been really popular in other reality third wave shows. Do you think that that kind of experience and their social media following that they already have help them once they get into the circle?
I think maybe a little because you go into it not so anxious about what people are going to think because you know they already have an idea of you.
Hmm.
So I think it helps a little, but like at the same time, no one actually sees your photo, and that's the thing about the circle is it makes you instantly like suspicious of everyone.
Hmm.
So I mean, even with Chloe, for example, some people were like, "That's not actually Chloe," and then
Hmm.
some people were like, "No, this is Chloe."
Oh
So
wow.
it helps, but I wouldn't say it gives you necessarily a leg up as far as the actual competition.
Hmm.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And
I definitely think that it helps a little bit because you like you said you do kind of already have this idea of what people think of you, but I also think
Hmm.
it could be like a hindrance too, like with the season where the Spice Girls came back and they were catfishing. It's like these are super international stars and they're trying to make it further and further and further and starting to get, kind of caught up in, what they're saying and how they are portraying themselves, one as a man and two as a younger man too. I think it does have its challenges, but like you said, I don't know if it necessarily helps them out in the context of the show.
Yeah.
what do you think, or do you think, I should say, that having this experience in the circle, does it have an impact on your real life social media and how you interacts with people? Are you like when you're texting people, are people like, oh Jesus, he's just gonna smoke us every time now because he speaks text?
I I don't know. It's so funny because I think everyone on social media watched the show, like the people that follow me because of the circle, they're all expecting me to be how I was on the circle or how I was
Right.
portrayed on the circle, which a lot of it was me. Like I am very, and I'm gonna toot my own horn here. It's fine. I'm
Toot
allowed. I'm
toot,
a winner.
toot toot.
I'm I am a nice person. I do a lot of things for other people. It's something that I was raised to do. But I'm also a bitch. I'm also like I'm not gonna take crap from anybody.
Yeah.
So it's everyone's expecting me to be all nicey online. So when they see me cuss or anything like that, it's like, oh my God, like not Brandon. Why would you do that? And it's like
Mm.
because I'm a real person.
I'm a
I
real
am not.
boy.
Yeah, it's so funny to me because I've had such a good experience with fans, and I obviously don't want to push anyone away, but at the same time, I'm just like, I'm gonna mess up. I'm not always gonna be your favorite person. My
Hi.
mother. It was my mother. Of course it was.
Well, hopefully everything's okay. Hopefully she's doing well.
Is mom okay?
Oh, she's fine. I tried to, she'll be great. I was like, of course it's mom. I was like, we were just talking about how I like to help others, and the queen herself calls. And it's,
Right. And you're like, not now. I'm doing an
dude,
interview.
yes, mom, I'm being fancy. I'm being,
So let me ask you this, like in terms of fame that has come as a result of this, do you get stopped by people in your hometown and stuff? Like, does everybody know who you are?
yeah, I get stopped a lot, and I personally love it. I think it's
Yeah.
amazing. Because it's like, I mean, they're not like super long interactions. It's like, can I get a picture and
Mm.
like talk about the show for like a second, and we just move on. I think it's hilarious. I just got back from Europe, and I got recognized in Europe way more than I ever
Oh,
expected.
wow.
Um,
Really?
yeah, so The Circle is it's it's a popular show. A lot of people watch it. It's
I think it started in the UK, didn't
yeah,
it? Yeah.
yes, yeah.
That's so
Interesting.
interesting. I wonder if they would do like a mashup season where there's, people kind of from all these different countries coming together. Maybe they'll save that for the All-Star season.
I think that's an epic idea. There's so many directions they could go with the show. They
Mhm.
just got to get back into actually promoting the show and trying to bring on more viewers, like different viewers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What are some of those different directions you think they could take? Like I know that they've tried to do, where they have the Spice Girls infiltrate, then you had
Mhm.
Max, the AI, and now in season 7, they're really playing up this disruptor role. What are some things that you would do, like techniques or game mechanics that you would put in to change it up?
I I honestly I think I'm not 100% sure on that. I just think as far as the tone of the show, I think the tone of the show is changing so much. I mean, even drastically from season 5 to our season, people were saying, "Oh my God, it's a lot more intense." Like people, and I think as the circle has gone on, people have started to change, what they're doing because they're like, everyone's always so nicey, nicey, nicey. They can't mess it. I mean, they can't vote out everyone.
Mhm.
So there are people taking chances and being a little more aggressive, like QT walking out on that private chat with Jordan.
Right.
Huge, huge.
Yeah.
So I think that alone is a good reason to start promoting again because that's going to bring in a whole different audience that is like, I live for the drama. I want the drama.
Mhm.
So especially season 7, from what I've heard, it's gonna get nuts. So
Mm. Interesting. I've always wondered if they would ever do something where like, one player wins some kind of advantage and they can cut the hot water off in somebody else's unit or
oh
like turn
my
off their lights for 24 hours. It enters something into the game where you have like control over the living situation of another player. You can make it
yeah,
miserable or maybe make it better in some way. I don't know.
That's
yeah, I
the thing. Steal all the toothpaste like the little Indian.
Yeah.
yes. Just add like little things that aren't public even. So they're saying like there's going to be little advantages you get throughout the game, but we don't tell the other players who, what, where, when, and why. And I think
Right.
that's going to cause so much more chaos. And that opens up a whole other door for so many new viewers because it's
Totally.
like, okay, this is fresh, this is different. I want to be involved in the conversation now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you're looking at like, just talking about the NRU. What are the other shows in the NRU? You've obviously got Love is Blind. That's kind of like the top of the pyramid. It's their biggest show, and that's a straight dating game. And it does have
Yeah.
some components that are like mechanical game components when they bring them all back to the party in the end, and now you've got to meet the third person in the love triangle, and oh shit, my fiance is gonna get pissed, whatever that may be. That's to me my favorite part of it. But you've also got stuff like Squid Game Challenge, which is a
Hmm.
hardcore psychological game, physical game, And I feel like The Circle is like somewhere in between all of that, but it doesn't
Mm,
quite have like 100% of any of it. You do have showmances, but you don't
yeah.
quite have like the level that a Love Is Blind or even a Too Hot to Handle or Perfect Match has. And you have a little bit of the like you're confined in this room, a prisoner on this reality show. You have a little bit of that, but not as much as like Squid Game Challenge. I don't know. I just feel like they could amp some of that stuff up in it. And maybe that would kind of blow it up a little more.
I feel like The Circle is like the best trauma bonding you're ever gonna get. Um, just and I say that in the best way because
Yeah.
you've got you've got 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, whatever, to do as much as you can in such little time. And so everyone's in the same scenario as you know this. You're trying to make friends, you're trying not to make enemies. When you do make enemies, you're trying to take them out without being too suspicious. So you get really close to people really fast.
Mhm.
And I just feel like, I don't know, I don't know.
You're like, it was the most traumatic experience of my life in the best way possible, in a real good
And
way. It's the best
yes,
trauma.
I think it's, I don't know, it's the isolation I think gets to you a little bit, but
Sure.
then I don't know. People always complain like, how are you already best friends with someone you've only talked to for three
Totally.
days? Well, because that's the only person I've been able to have a connection with for 3 days.
Yeah.
Uh, I do think, as far as this season is concerned, everyone has become a couple
Mhm.
Very quickly.
already, like straight out the gate, and I'm like, okay, you're calling people your circle husband and things like that on day two. I was like, girl, there's a line you gotta draw somewhere.
You got to get the build up at
Yeah.
least a little bit.
But that isolation technique is something that like all reality shows use this
Mm-hmm.
to make people's emotions get like as high as they possibly can be by 24 hours in. Bachelor does it, Love is Blind does it. I'm sure on Circle they take away your cell phones, same thing. You're locked in this place for 2.5 weeks, whatever it is. Survivor does it. They all do it. That technique of saying we're gonna
Mm.
cut you off from your friends, your family, any news that might be going on in the outs. Like it could be World War III. You don't know. You're playing The Circle. You're like hashtag fire emoji. Meanwhile, nuclear bombs are dropping. You have no idea.
Well, and I think that's what makes it even harder is that at least on those other shows, you're having actual conversation, like
Yeah.
actual back and forth. With the circle, it's just text messages. So you
Right.
can't predict tone, anything like that. So anything you say, it's gonna depend on how the other person perceives it
Mhm.
Yeah.
because you can't hear my voice,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
Exactly.
all for like their interpretation of what it could be. How many of those conversations are you actually having a day? Like, do you get to tell the producers how many people you want to talk to, and then that's how they set the conversations up?
Yeah, normally you'll wake up and then they'll be like, okay, who do you want to talk to today? Like just so we can get it on paper, like
Mhm.
written down. And you say who you want to talk to and why. And then usually throughout the day, at some point you get to have those conversations. You just can't choose like you can't wake up and be like, I want to talk to Cassie right now, this very second.
Right.
Just because if that were the case, it would be complete chaos and they wouldn't get a show.
Right.
Totally. And when you're saying you're talking to the producers about this, are you seeing them? Do they come into your room? It's just through the screen.
Yeah, so
Jesus.
we
Wow.
have what we call like the VOG, which I think a lot of people from past seasons have talked about,
Mhm.
which is basically a voice box in the corner of the room. And so like if you need help or anything like that, you can always be like, "Hey, you guys, like I'm having an emergency," and they'll be like,
Yeah.
"What's going on? What's the situation?" So in the morning, that's kind of how they wake you up. They turn on the like studio lighting in your apartment. And I remember every morning I would just hear Olivia, it's time to get
Oh my God.
up.
That's wild. So when you're
What an
doing
alarm.
these
Yeah.
conversations, like are they abridged in any way? Like could you sit there and be like, "Okay, Circle, and just rattle off like a 250 word monologue? And would that pop up, or do the producers say like, "Hey, chill, we got to get this down to about 50 words"?
I don't think it's so much them saying like, okay, we got to narrow it down to this. I think it's more them saying like, what are you trying to get at with this conversation
Right.
is more where it's at. So like adding all the extra fluff when
Mm.
you're trying to just say this little thing, they're kind of like, okay, how can you reword that so you're not sending an entire book to somebody?
And in the
Um,
sorry,
yeah.
in the course of those conversations, then, like, let's say you and I are having a text conversation and I want to write a whole
Hmm.
book. So I say
Hmm.
that, the producers hear it. They then say, hang on, let's carve that down to this. And then they get you shoot on camera, shooting it, saying it again. Okay, here's
Yeah.
the little thing. Then how long until you say the finalized version does it take for that to show up on the screen to the other person?
Oh God, I don't even know. It just depends on the scenario
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
like when Kyle and I had our conversation about our fathers, it was a long
Yeah.
conversation because emotions were just on 10.
Yep.
So there were a lot of pauses because I know for me, I can't speak for Kyle, but I know for me personally, I it was very hard for me to talk about because I just don't tell a lot of people about it. And here I am telling the world about it.
Hmm.
And so there were a lot of times I had to pause and be like, I need to catch my breath because I'm actually, spiraling right now. So that conversation I think was like an hour and a half. And we
Hmm.
said maybe 15 to 20 things.
Right.
Wow. How
Yeah.
much, like, with the pauses that you're taking, how much of that, like, downtime do you get throughout the day? Like, are they telling you, okay, we're rolling, and now you have like an hour break where we're not rolling? How does that work with the cameras?
No, they're always rolling. There's never a point where they're not rolling. They'll tell you, so they'll be like, now you have some downtime. If you want to make lunch, it's probably a good idea to eat now because we're going to have a busy night. Like blah, 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 things like that, just so you kind of get a heads up because if not, again, you're locked in a room with no clocks, no anything telling you when you need to do things. So if I want to eat dinner at 6, but they plan on playing a game at 6, they can't tell me, hey, we're playing a game
Right.
at 6 because then I get an unfair advantage. What they can do though is say it's 4:30 and they're like, hey, maybe you should eat dinner now. Like now would be a good time to eat
Hmm.
dinner, go to the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. So it's more to just make sure that you're taking care of yourself because they're very conscious about that. So I will
Right.
say production was amazing about that, just being
Hmm.
like, what do you need? Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that with like the whole taking care of yourself of it all, that as seasons started like progressing, that you would see people cooking their meals more. I remember in one season we were seeing like Caress in the laundry room doing her laundry. Like how much of that is actually real where they're taking you out of your room and are you actually doing your laundry? I've always wondered that. That's just like maybe a me thing.
I can't speak for that because I never went to the laundry room. Someone did my laundry for me. Um,
Okay.
and this was not my request, by the way. I'm not a diva. This
Sure.
was, yeah, right. This was them saying, like, hey, we're going to pick up your laundry, put it in this basket if you need anything done. So I was like, boom. But you can sign up to go to the gym, you can sign up to go to the terrace. You just can't choose a specific time
Mm.
unless you're kind of having a breakdown. So if you're having a breakdown, they're a little more lenient. The conversation with Kyle and I about the dads, as soon as that conversation was over, I was like, you need to get me out of here. Like I need air. You got to take me to the terrace. I need air. So they're like, sure, like not a problem. We got you. Like, thank you for being vulnerable. So they're very conscious
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
those things.
That's awesome. I mean, at least that's good because on other
Yeah.
reality shows, we know,
Yeah.
we cover Bachelor here on our channel, and
Yeah.
so those producers are really egging it on. If they see that you're close to a breakdown, there's no taking you out of it. No, we're going to stay in and
Yeah.
get
that's
Yeah.
the goal of the producers on The Bachelor, is to get people to have nervous breakdowns. That's literally
Yeah.
what they're trying to do as often as possible on camera.
Mhm.
I don't think I needed help, you guys. I don't think I needed help. I think I just brought it all the time.
That's hilarious. Now, every time I see someone in the meditation yoga room, I'm going to be like, they're having a mental breakdown.
Yeah, right. I
That
went
is,
to the gym one day and I was like, I'm going to the gym. Clearly not because I need to work out, but I wasn't allowed to go to the terrace. Like I went to the gym and I was like, I'm gonna work out. Yeah, okay. And so I was like, you guys, it's gonna be ridiculous seeing me in the gym because I'm not doing it. So I just did like stupid things, and obviously they used the footage, which I was just like, oh my god, it's so embarrassing. But it's I don't know. You don't necessarily always want to be in the room, but you
Sure.
can't always get what you want as far as where you get to go and stuff like that.
yeah. Do you at least get the room that you want? Are you able to see the room before you walk in, or they kind of set all of that up for you? Because I know you were in like a purple pink with like crystals everywhere. And like, how much of that do you get to kind of like choose?
You don't at all. I I don't know. I had a love-hate relationship with my room. I loved my room because I felt like it. I don't know.
It gave you the Olivia vibes. Was it
A,
helping you with your catfishing?
a little bit, but my room was very dark.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I had the same room as Savannah,
Mm-hmm.
who just got, spoiler alert, yeah. Um, and so I was like, oh my God, the room is cursed because I won and now the next person lost immediately. Uh, but it was dark. If you ever talk to Cassie would tell you when she came to visit me, she was like, oh my God, you're in a dungeon. And I was like, it's not that bad. You're being dramatic. She goes, no, it is dark. Maybe my eyes just suggested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she might be a little biased. She was in Barbie's dream house for her room.
Thank you. She was in cotton candy paradise.
Yeah.
So now post Circle, you're doing this other secret project that we can't discuss. You're trying
Yeah.
to get into scripted stuff. You're doing stand up as well, right?
I haven't gotten back into it. I
Oh,
still write though. I write a lot, so it's coming. It's coming. I just gotta get myself back into that groove
mm,
because when I was in it, I was just like doing it and I was like, go, go, go. And I feel like I need to get back into that mentality before I can just get back on stage. Because
yeah,
if not, I'm going to do one show and I'm going to be like, I was so scared because I wasn't ready.
right.
Mm.
So stand up is hard as hell. Anyone that tries to tell you stand up is easy, blah, 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 it's hard. Like,
Yeah,
it's brutal.
I agree. I wrote my first two stand-up specials this past year, but I didn't perform them. One of them was for Tom Brady, and I used an AI to make his voice and put that on the internet, which was kind of interesting. He sent me a cease and desist. And then I did one for George Carlin, an hour of new material in 2024 of George Carlin. I put that video out and got promptly sued by his daughter. So it didn't
Oh,
go very well for me.
It's
My
your career has been a success in the comedy world.
yeah, my forehand to stand up. I agree with everything you're saying about how difficult it is and treacherous to some degree. But
oh my God.
no, we wish you well and sincerely can't thank you enough for doing this. Where can people
Thank you.
follow you and how can they find all the things you're doing?
Obviously, I feel like I'm most active on Instagram, which is like B_Randon Baker because someone stole my name. Um, so that's where I post the most. TikTok, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
same ad. But yeah,
Gonna get a hot dog brand deal coming soon.
I hope so, girl. I got waiters all over me. Like this is all I do all day long. I cannot stress enough how much I love hot dogs. And I think people think it's a gimmick. And I'm like, it's not a gimmick. Like,
Yeah.
why did I choose that gimmick? Like,
Betty
That's
White
hilarious.
had the same gimmick. She supposedly ate a hot dog every day.
did she really?
Yeah, that was
Oh
one of her
God,
big deals, how she lived
R.I.P.
so long. I know.
R.I.P. Betty Way, because if that's the case, I'm gonna live for eternity.
Let us pray, Brandon, because we want to see you on our screens for such like a long time. Like we want to keep seeing you. So I'm super excited to hear about what you have coming up. And I'm just so happy that you were here to take the interview with us.
Yeah,
Heck yeah,
thanks so
I
much, man.
appreciate that. I appreciate that so much.